Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about how to identify domestic versus international entrepreneurial opportunities and to take advantage of them at the right time before the opportunity is gone. So hopefully the insights will be helpful for those of you who are doing research or entrepreneurship locally and nationally, or planning to expand internationally. In order to expand any entrepreneurial venture, the entrepreneur should identify opportunities for domestic as well as international expansion sooner or later. The sooner you do it, the better off you'll be and more prepared before others take advantage of the available opportunities. The distinction between foreign and domestic markets is becoming less pronounced with the existence of websites and technology and the ability to basically ship things overnight and get them to international markets fairly quickly. So the pressure to internationalize is being felt in virtually every single organization in industry, including in entrepreneurship. There should be an opportunity assessment plan for this. So the key to a profitable domestic as well as international venture is to develop the idea that has a large reachable market. The opportunity assessment plan differs from a business plan. It's usually shorter than a business plan. It focuses on the opportunity, not so much on the venture itself. The plan has no pro forma financial statements, and it is the basis for the decision to act on an opportunity or wait for a little bit longer until the market becomes a little bit more lucrative, perhaps. And so when you're assessing the opportunity, you need to take advantage of the opportunity whenever it is available. Otherwise, the opportunity will be gone. So let's look at a case where a company might go global during a recession period. The title of this segment is When Recession Strikes, Go Global. In 2001, the US commercial gaming revenue rose by 3.1% during a recession. This, along with the reality of operating in a highly regulated environment, long held belief of the addictive nature of gambling in a desire by some to reverse their luck, led some to believe that the industry was recession-proof. The Las Vegas gambling market revenue saw continued increases through 2007 to an all-time high of $13 billion. But in the 2 years that followed, revenue declined by 20% to $10.3 billion. Two trends can be attributed to this decline. First, the US recession during this time caused a decline in discretionary income. Second, many states outside of Nevada began to legalize gambling that redirected revenues away from Las Vegas and onto new local destinations, such as Pennsylvania. No company felt that pain more than the Las Vegas Sands, or LVS, which saw its $52 billion market cap and $144 per share price erode over 2 years to less than $2 a share by March 2009. So that's a huge decline for the company LVS. No industry is completely resilient from the effects of a recession. But since 2008, LVS and Wynn Resorts have sought to counter the decline in US revenues by aggressively expanding internationally in places such as Macau, which many of you are familiar with or heard of or have been there. Wynn Resorts is currently in the process of building a $3.5 billion property called Wynn Palace that will be operational by 2016. This is on top of the $1.2 billion spent to build the Wynn Macau property and the $700 million spent on its expansion. Encore at Wynn Macau. This story is similar to LVS, which spent $265 million on its first casino called Sands Macau, and later spent another $6.4 billion to build two additional properties, Venetian Macau and Sands Cotai Central. But one company, Caesars Entertainment, the largest casino operator in the world by the number of properties, never followed its competitors and ended up paying a very heavy price by having to file for bankruptcy protection in January of 2015. Gary Loveman, the CEO of Caesars Entertainment, acknowledged that failing to aggressively expand internationally was a big mistake. Globally, the casino industry had revenues of $107 billion in 2007, and it saw a minor contraction in 2009, which was 2.2%. In its second annual Global Gaming Outlook, PricewaterhouseCoopers expects global casino revenues to reach $182 billion by the end of 2015. This significant increased revenue is largely attributed to growth in the Asia-Pacific market that PwC estimates experienced a compound annual growth rate of 18% from 2010 to 2015. More specifically, Singapore and Macau, each of which has seen a compound annual growth rate in excess of 20% from 2011 to 2015. Fortune magazine noted in January 2015 that Macau continues to be the most important gambling destination with a solid growth opportunity in the years to come. Indeed, PricewaterhouseCoopers estimates that Macau by itself, just 12 square miles, will overtake the entire $73 billion North American casino market in terms of revenue by 2015. Casinos have been legal in Macau since 1847, but after the territory returned to Chinese rule in 1999, Chinese authorities ended the monopoly controlled by Hong Kong tycoon Stanley Ho. In 2003, Macau had just 434 tables and 814 gaming machines. By the end of 2004, the count grew to 1,092 tables and 2,254 machines as of March 2014. Macau had 5,700 tables and 13,323 machines. This massive growth allowed LVS to earn back its entire initial $265 million construction cost within 1 year. Macau's expansion was driven in part by a rising middle class with increased discretionary income in Asia. Along with a rising middle class, there is a significant population of high net worth individuals in the region with few local options. According to Forbes magazine, China currently has about 1.3 million high net worth individuals with a combined wealth of 4.3 trillion, but gambling is still illegal in mainland China, in Indonesia, in Japan, in Taiwan, and in Thailand. So in the coming years, Spain and Japan are two areas that are expected to benefit from new casino expansion as governments seek to cash in on the tax revenue it generates. It remains to be seen whether this continued expansion is a bubble or just the reality of growth in underserved areas. But one thing is clear about companies such as LVS and Wynn Resorts. Their success has been driven by recognizing global trends and offering a product that caters to local preferences. So watching the trends and taking advantage of them in real time is sometimes a survival necessity. What is international entrepreneurship? International entrepreneurship is the process of conducting business across national boundaries, going above and beyond the borders of your home country, going to multiple nations. It can consist of exporting, licensing, or opening a sales office in another country way beyond your home nation. The United States is a relative newcomer to the international business. Foreign investors have helped build much of the early US industrial base. The future commercial strength of the US depends on entrepreneurs' success in markets outside of the US. So American companies are expanding internationally, and so should any foreign entrepreneur as they attempt to expand not only to all the other territories, but they should definitely take advantage of the United States market, which obviously is a huge market for many companies. However, sometimes the distance might be too difficult to sell products or to ship products to faraway places like the United States. International business is important to firms of all sizes. Successful entrepreneurs do understand how international business differs from domestic business, and they respond accordingly. All entrepreneurs are concerned with sales, with costs, with profits. What varies is the relative importance of each of these factors. Decisions are complex due to uncontrollable factors regarding transportation, regarding sometimes taxes that are imposed or tariffs that are imposed by foreign governments. So conducting what is known as P.E.S.T analysis is a useful strategy when exploring international business opportunities. So P.E.S.T strategy stands for political, economic, social, and technical elements in order to determine whether an opportunity domestically or internationally is good or not so good for your business. So P.E.S.T analysis is a management tool which involves evaluating the political, the economic, the social, and technological factors that could impact your business at any given time. So in regards to political factors, they could measure the degree of political stability in government intervention in an economy or in a nation. So in regards to the social factors, they have a great impact on the buying patterns. Knowing the behavioral patterns of a nation is an important determinant for doing business with them. The technological factors include things like level of research and development, automation, innovation, and other related factors in a specific environment. And finally, the economic factors and policies have a great impact on businesses in their expansions. Can you make a profit out of this expansion or not? If you cannot make a profit and you're draining your existing resources, then it may not be a good time to move into international expansion at a given time. So besides doing a P.E.S.T analysis, you need to understand the culture where you're going to expand. If the culture is very different, then you need some preparation before you can make your product or service a success with the people of the local country where you are going to expand. Culture refers to the common ways of thinking and behaving. In other words, culture is the way things are done in any environment, and the way a new environment might behave might be very different from the culture where you were brought up or where your company is doing business currently. Cultures regularize human behavior, so therefore we can make some forecasts whether people will be happy with a specific product or not based on the cultural patterns. Culture is learned behavior, which identifies a person belonging to a specific nation or society. Cultural aspects that may be difficult to know immediately could be language, social structure, religion, politics, education, manners and customs, and even aesthetics, which might impact doing business with them or which may dissuade people from buying your product or service. So before you go global, make sure you understand the cultural alignment with your product or service. The motivation to go global often seems to be based on profits. So profits are the most significant reason for going global. In sales to other markets is another reason to go global. Domestic market may be leveling or even declining in sales, Therefore, you have to go global in order to capture the market before your competitors, and also to make sure you stay in business. Entrepreneurs can move to international markets to avoid industry regulations in some cases, or even societal concerns about the product. When the entrepreneur's technology or product is obsolete in a domestic market, there may be sales opportunities in foreign markets. So going global may take advantage of lower costs in foreign countries for labor, for overhead, and even for raw material that is available in those markets. So the motivation for going global could be related to profits, to competitive pressures, to unique products or services that are available abroad, or the ones that you can offer to foreign markets. Excess production capacity could be another reason for going global, or declining home country sales, unique market opportunity at a given time for you, gaining from economies of scale, gaining a technological advantage, or even tax benefits could all be reasons that are valid for expanding in a foreign market. When it comes to foreign market selection, we can base the market selection on past sales, in competitive positioning, in assess and rank each foreign market alternative to choose the one that is best for your product or service. You can actually apply the 5-step approach for market selection. You can develop appropriate indicators. You can collect data and convert them into comparable indicators. You can establish an appropriate weight for each of these indicators. You can analyze the data, and finally, you can select the appropriate market from the market rankings. So that's one way of expanding your reach beyond your national borders, but you do have to have a methodology for selection of the best lucrative market for your product or service. And so what are some of the entrepreneurial entry strategies for going abroad? Well, you can use exporting either directly or indirectly. Indirect exporting involves the least amount of risk using an export management firm or purchasing offices for commodities. You can have direct exporting through independent distributors or even an overseas sales office, which requires low financial commitment on the part of the entrepreneur. You can have non-equity arrangements like licensing, turnkey projects, or even management contracts. Licensing is used when there is no intent to export or directly invest in a foreign market. Turnkey projects are facilities built in a foreign country and turned over to local entrepreneurs for operation. So they're probably buying the product or the service, and they become the owners locally, but basically the expert management company does all the paperwork, or you do it and you turn the key over to them locally. You can have management contracts, which allows entrepreneurs to contract their management techniques and skills to a foreign purchasing company for expanding in a foreign market. Direct foreign investment is usually the most expensive. So ownership percentage hinges on the amount of money that's invested, the nature of the industry, and the rules of the host government as well. The direct foreign investment could be minority interest, joint ventures, and majority interest forms. Minority interest allows an entrepreneur to gain a foothold, basically, or acquire experience in the market before committing. Joint ventures are used to purchase local knowledge or an established facility, or when rapid entry is needed before your competitors go there. Majority interest is the purchase of over 50% equity in a firm. Of course, local governments often have a lot to say about how this is done. So some governments may not require a majority interest, but again, this is where the lawyers can be helpful in guiding you on how to expand in a foreign market properly. Mergers are often difficult to assess when going abroad. There's horizontal merger, which is motivated by economies of scale. A vertical merger offers control over supply and production for your products and services. In a product extension merger, the acquired firm has related activities. A market extension merger combines the skills of the acquired firm along with yours. And in a diversified activity merger, the acquiring firm does not run the new company. Let us now look at how do we align corporate social responsibility with company operations, regardless of where we expand or how we expand. The concept of corporate social responsibility has existed over the past 6 decades and describes the company's ability to operate in a sustainable, ecologically friendly manner that benefits shareholders, as well as the employees in the community at large. The impact of corporate social responsibility is often thought of as the triple bottom line, with people, planet, and profit being the focus. New studies do show that customers are responding to green initiatives and increasingly expect companies to behave in a responsible manner and willing to reward them for doing so. As a matter of fact, in August of 2013, Nielsen released the results of the global survey of 29,000 online consumers in 58 different countries about consumer attitudes towards socially responsible companies. Globally, half of all respondents said that they would be willing to reward companies that give back to society by paying more for their goods and services. With the expectations of politicians, customers, and employees all increasing relative to corporate social responsibility, it is more important than ever before that a company's corporate social responsibility efforts are aligned with the company operations locally, nationally, and internationally. When a company's day-to-day operating procedures do not align with the socially responsible image that is portrayed in their marketing, it can quickly give way to customer mistrust, to anger, and even to corporate image disaster. The BP Deepwater Horizon catastrophe may be a model case scenario of when brand image and reality do not align very well. Writing in the Harvard Business Review in January 2015, the authors actually found that well-managed companies seem less interested in totally integrating corporate social responsibility with their business strategies and goals than in devising a cogent corporate social responsibility program aligned with the company's purpose and values. The authors identified a 4-step process for developing a unified corporate social responsibility program. A pre-step involves taking inventory of existing activities, which includes categorizing all of your corporate social responsibility activities into 3 categories of philanthropy, improving operational effectiveness, and transforming the business model. In terms of philanthropic activities, the authors wrote that are not designed to produce profits or directly improve business performance. Such efforts as supporting the local arts may not be related to company mission, but they're designed to market the company as supporting the community through a donation of goods and services. Improving operational effectiveness usually involves delivering social or environmental benefits in ways that support a company's operations across the value chain, often improving efficiency and effectiveness. Such efforts as reducing harmful impact on the environment from operations may increase revenues or even decrease costs. Transforming the business model is perhaps the most comprehensive of corporate social responsibility initiatives. It involves creating new forms of business specifically to address social or environmental challenges. One example of transforming the business model, the author site is Hindustan Unilever Project Shakti in India. So Project Shakti transformed the traditional wholesaler to retailer distribution model by recruiting women as door-to-door sales agents for the company's products. The results are very, very impressive. more than 65,000 women have doubled their household income, generating more than $100 million in sales. After inventorying corporate social responsibility initiatives, the authors suggest reducing or eliminating initiatives that do not address an important social or environmental problem in keeping with the company's purpose, identity, and values. A company can have a greater impact if their corporate social responsibility initiatives are in line with their core competencies, such as a restaurant that supports a local food pantry. Effective corporate social responsibility initiatives must be thought of just as any other corporate activity, which is why the second step to corporate social responsibility alignment is develop metrics to gauge performance. As with all metrics to track corporate performance, they should be SMART. In other words, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. One internet startup called CostCast provides an efficient means to set up, to manage, and to track workplace giving in volunteering programs. The third step toward corporate social responsibility alignment involves coordination programs across theaters so that they form a coherent portfolio, one whose initiatives are mutually reinforcing as well as consistent with the company's business purpose and values. The final step toward corporate social responsibility alignment involves developing an interdisciplinary corporate social responsibility strategy, which means having coordinated support for your CSR initiatives at the top levels of executive management. Unfortunately, research by Rangan and colleagues found that chief executive officers are only involved in shared value CSR initiatives about 30% of the time. As the importance of implementing socially responsible programs continues to increase worldwide, it is important that companies develop social responsibility policies and programs and work in a sustainable, environmentally friendly manner beneficial to shareholders, to employees, and the general community. For these companies, marketing their sustainable behaviors will endear them to politicians, to customers, and to employees alike, giving them a leg up on the competition and driving their business forward. While being socially responsible, one of the components is to sometimes expand internationally by choosing a partner that you can trust. So one of the best entry methods for international markets is to partner with an entrepreneur in that environment that already has a lot more knowledge about the customs, about traditions, and about the laws. Foreign partners know the culture and they can facilitate business transactions and keep the entrepreneur current on the existing conditions. A good partner can help the entrepreneur achieve the goal that is beneficial for you and for them. Good partners share the entrepreneur's vision and they act in a socially responsible manner at all times. Regardless of which mode of expansion you choose, you're likely to face some trade barriers when expanding internationally. Trade barriers pose problems because they can increase the cost of exporting your product to foreign consumers. Voluntary export restrictions can limit the ability to sell products in a country from production facilities outside of the country. So the entrepreneur may have to locate and assemble and find facilities in the country to conform to the local regulations and expectations of the government to hire local people, so more jobs can be acquired by the citizens of that country. Nonetheless, if the barriers become too strong, you may have to terminate doing business in that environment or exit the market. Let us look at an example of Tesco in the US market. In November 2007, the British retailer Tesco entered the US grocery market with a brand new name called Fresh and Easy. However, 5 years later, in 2012, they were preparing to exit the US market amid continued losses and a failed attempt to draw broad market appeal. They were founded in 1919. Tesco was quite successful in the UK market. The company offered both products like food, general merchandise, electronics, clothing, and gas, as well as services like online sales, telecommunication services, and even financial services at its stores. In 2003, Tesco ranked 8th among the top 10 retailers in the world by their sales figures. The United States was not Tesco's first attempt at international expansion. As a matter of fact, in 2012, they had over 3,200 stores in 12 different countries outside of the United Kingdom. The company was successful in Thailand, in South Korea, in Hungary, in Malaysia, in Slovakia, but struggled in other international markets such as Poland, such as Turkey, such as Czech Republic, and even in Japan. As with any proper market entry strategy, Tesco began by conducting market research. The combined US grocery market is approximately 1.1 trillion in annual revenues compared to just the 278 billion in the United Kingdom. Tesco executives felt that the significant size of the US market meant that there was room for additional competition in the United States. All of this research led the decision to open its first store in the state of California. California was comparable to the UK market in terms of size, and it was less competitive. Its consumers, executives felt, were more likely to be receptive to Tesco's green approach to being environmentally friendly. In addition, increased rates of obesity and rising healthcare costs played in their favor with the focus on fresh product offerings, which they felt would be a particular draw on the West Coast of the United States. In entering the California market, Tesco departed from its past international market entry strategies by echoing the joint venture or acquisition approach. Some have argued that they were doomed to fail from the beginning for this very reason. First, the company chose to remodel existing retail locations that were less accessible rather than build brand new stores. Second, Tesco lacked local operating knowledge. While they were able to avoid integration problems often found with joint ventures and acquisitions, the company's cost of operations still were negatively impacted. For instance, the cost of central functions amounted to 5% of sales in the United States as opposed to 1.5% in the UK. Tesco did understand that international expansion required catering to local preferences. Their stores in Malaysia included prayer rooms, for example, and it sold fresh frogs in China. In entering the US market, they attempted to understand the living, eating, and shopping habits of the US consumers by hiring people to live in homes of the US consumers. Despite this research, Tesco underestimated how Americans shop. As Natalie Berg of the Planet Retail noted, this is evident in the following 4 bullet points. The company only offered assisted service. US consumers also fond of examining fresh produce prior to purchasing, which Tesco limited because they wrapped their produce in cellophane. The company also carried a majority of private label brands that, combined with a new store, contributed to an atmosphere of uncertainty and lack of trust. Their ready-to-eat meals, which was a key part of their US expansion strategy, were kind of smaller in portion size and garnered little interest at first. So this, in addition to the fact that Tesco's decision to have the same product mix at each location and have stores in both poor as well as affluent neighborhoods, led Berg to note that they didn't have a very clear proposition. Are they a convenience store or are they a discount store? Finally, Tesco's US success was also hurt by bad timing, entering during the worst US recession since the Great Depression, particularly in the hardest hit areas of California, Nevada, as well as Arizona. By 2011, Fresh and Easy had 164 stores, but the stores as a whole were still not profitable. Tesco had tried to alter their existing strategy and even closed a few stores, but nothing showed the strong promise of continuing with their plan to have 400 stores in 5 years. In 2013, they announced their decision to exit the US market and sell the brand to a local California supermarket holding company called Mujtaba. As one retail analyst noted, Tesco's Fresh and Easy stores were not very fresh and not very easy. In exiting the US market at a cost of nearly $2 billion, perhaps Tesco's biggest mistake was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. While situations like this are unfortunate and sometimes unavoidable, the company might have avoided a less costly exit by focusing on other US locations after the effect of the recession were underway, and by sticking with the joint venture or acquisition market entry strategy that had generally worked well for them in previous international expansion efforts. But they obviously chose to go alone without any partners in the US. Despite the fact that there are language similarities between the US and UK markets, there are going to be major differences in terms of customer preferences, laws, and other elements that went wrong for Tesco in the US market. In summary, there are some implications for the global entrepreneur. The cultural, the political, the economic, and the distribution systems of a country do influence its attractiveness as a potential market in an investment opportunity for entrepreneurs in other localities. As always, aim to be an ethical entrepreneur, an ethical researcher, and have a global mindset. Good luck.